All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Raw and Relentless with Bo DePauli. I got my friends Cory and Ryan on. Guys, what is up?
What's up, Bo? Nice to meet you, man. This is going to be fun.
Yeah. You guys are my first threesome.
Yeah.
Actually,
not same. I think we're going to have foursomes on here before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a little crazy on here. Yeah.
This will be fun. So why don't you tell everybody about you guys, about yourselves, what you're doing, what you're up to, and what you're working on.
Yeah, I typically like to start the story. Ryan and I have known each other for 15 years. He's been my best friend for 15 years. And I guess, not all best friends start a business together, but we decided to do that. So back in 2018, I bought a 3-bed, 2-bath. I went from paying $1,000 a month in rent, and I ended up living for free because I lived in 1 bedroom and rented out the other 2 bedrooms. And I was like hooked on this real estate thing. I was working a normal corporate job, if you will. I was making $40,000, just fresh out of school, 25, 26, and thinking like, there's gotta be something more to life than like, is this it? Like, this is really what I went to high school, college, and like, this is my thing. And, you meet like-minded people, and Ryan and I met in college, and we kind of got the real estate bug. So I bought this property. I was able to save up some cash and buy another duplex. We're in the Philadelphia area, so I bought it in New Jersey. And Ryan saw that I did that, and he was like, dude, we've been friends forever. Like, we've been talking about this financial freedom, FIRE movement, real estate thing. Like, let's join forces. Like, let's do this together. So 2020, we started our podcast, a real estate company, and our social media all in the same time frame. And we decided, you know what, we're just going to share our story. I hope people like it. I hope people listen. There's bigger pockets. There's all these things out there, but like, I think people want to hear the come up with you, right? Like, not that spoken down, like I've already achieved all these things back in 2006. Here's how I did it. Let's do it together. So we started this podcast on our social media platforms, started the real estate company. And because of doing that, we ended up organically networking with people that were way ahead of us, getting in better rooms, better and bigger, realized that we could grow a lot faster through partnerships. Our portfolio of a couple units turned to 4, turned to 8, turned to 12. Right now we're at about 80 units between either Ryan and I and some partners. And it's been just a fun journey of meeting cool people like yourself and realizing that the expansion of the mind and the expansion of us getting in new environments to, the saying with the goldfish, like I'm in a small bowl, I get into a different bowl, I can expand. And that's what's allowed us to grow. And yeah, that's kind of the story now. We teach people how to buy their first and next rental property. We're trying to grow our portfolio, and we're having some fun along the way. So that's kind of like our 60-second journey there.
Is it all single family homes, or you guys have multifamily too, or?
So we started out single family, duplex, another single family. And what we realized, Bo, is that like we're decent at this, but we're saving up our cash, we're deploying it. We're saving up our cash, we're deploying it. We're cash poor all the time. And by organically networking and get people on the podcast who are doing this full time, we realized that we could actually use our know, like, and trust. People started to follow our journey, started to enjoy listening to us, and we were able to start to raise capital for other ventures. And not just the capital raising, but the marketing, the investor relations, do some underwriting because we understood deal flow and how these work. So they started out with small units, and then they grew to a 7-unit, a 43-unit, an 18-unit, and most recently a 10-unit. We just got under contract a few weeks ago through some people that we have like become great friends with through the podcast. So that's we realized that in order to get better at this game, we had to elevate, and it was going to take us forever to buy deals just buying this onesies and twosies. So that we started to realize that it was the get in rooms with bigger and better people and expand that way.
Where are you guys based out of?
We're in Philadelphia. Rye is from Massachusetts, but he's now here, a Philadelphia native for a while. But yeah, we're in the Philadelphia market, and I've been here my whole life.
My buddy owns several gyms in Philly.
Okay.
City Fitness.
Oh, wow. Wait, Carl? How do I know the owners of that? What are their last names?
It's just one guy. It's Ken is his name.
Okay. It's funny. Like, Ryan and I are fitness guys. We don't own gyms or anything, but we love working out. And I love City Fitness. That's very close to me. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah, what he's built is it's amazing. He was actually a commercial real estate guy. He was a broker, and he actually had a space. I can't remember which location was his first one. He's going to come on the podcast, but he's opening like 3 new locations right now, so he's been super swamped. But he was a commercial broker, I think, for CBRE or somebody like that, and he had this commercial space that he was trying to lease. Nobody wanted to lease it, and he's like, you know what this area needs is a gym. And so he decided to get in the gym business, and he started City Fitness, and like he was like, it basically almost bankrupted him because he left the commercial brokerage gig to run this gym full time, and then he ended up like living out of his car because he was trying to make this thing work. And now he's got, man, I want to say he's getting ready to open like location 12 or something like that.
Every time I turn around, there's a new City Fitness going up in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
So I didn't even realize that. Is that, I don't know if is it just Philadelphia that it started in? Because there's City Fitness on, I know 5 of them off the top of my head. And I live in like the northwest section of Philadelphia. Yeah. It's one of the nicer gyms in the city. So they're
beautiful gyms.
Yeah,
they're awesome. Beautiful gyms. He did amazing. What he's done and accomplished is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Very, very cool, man.
And now he's advertising at the, I'm going to sound real dumb right now. What's Philly's basketball team? I can't even draw.
We know a little bit about that. The 76ers.
Yeah, 76ers. Thank you.
Yeah.
So he's advertising at their arena and stuff like that. He's doing some really cool stuff.
Good old Wells Fargo Center.
Yeah. But it's paid off.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome. It's so funny. Cory and I were talking about this the other day. It's actually when I was in the gym, I was texting about this because we have all the real estate going on. We have cash flowing assets and things like that. And we're like, dude, the next stage, we're gym rats. So at the end of the day, we're like, dude, can we get our own space at some point? Yeah. Not that I need to create a franchise or something like that, but like just having a mom and pop, Cory and Ryan, have our own space and just run it. Like, I would love to have something like that as I kind of get older and just, we're going every single day. I got a gym in my house. It's like, I just enjoy the environment, being around those types of people. And so it's just.
We've never talked about that on the pod, right? Actually, but that's very cool. I think that would be like, so Ryan and I we always say this, we're in our early 30s, approaching mid. I'm 33, he's 34. I think that's probably a venture for our 40s. It sounds like to do that once we have enough capital. But we follow Hermosi. So that's how he started. And he's like so big in that space. I just think it's such an intriguing, even if it's not this majorly profitable venture for us just to have, I think would be really cool.
So I own 2 gyms, and I always tell everybody that tells me they want to open up their own gym, I'm like, you're out of your mind. It's the worst investment you could make. It's not, but then it is. I mean, the gym space is so competitive now, 15 years ago, the only brands that you had was like Gold's Gym, Lifetime, stuff like that.
LA, right?
Yeah, LA. But these mid-market gyms, they've just exploded. Planet came to the market and just blew up, right? You got Anytime that has blown up. Now you got all these boutiques that is just blowing up, F45, Orange Theory, Base Camp,
Solid Core.
It just keeps going, right? Soul Cycle, all these things, right? And I feel like every year there's like 1 or 2 new major brands that are, blowing up. Like, for example, in Philly, Fusion Gyms is a big deal out there now, right?
Yeah.
That guy is absolutely killing it, what he's doing with that model.
I'm thinking about Lifetime Equinox is big in Philadelphia. There's like these high end, they're $300 or $400 a month type gyms. Mm-hmm. I haven't got off the $19 a month LA Fitness, but I know once I do, I'll never go back. And it's like, I'm curious about your gyms. Like what would you say is the style of your gym? Like, what is it like?
So when I bought my gyms 10 years ago, they were existing gyms. They were a local brand that was actually owned by a pro football player. He's from the area, but he wanted to have his own gyms and stuff like that. So I bought 2 of the locations because they were actually about ready to go bankrupt, and turned around in the first year. But when I bought them, I didn't want to keep the same brand name because it had kind of gotten dragged through the mud in the local press. And so I went in and I got a franchise agreement with World Gym. So I was a World Gym franchisee for 5 years. Their model was nice from a franchise point because it wasn't your typical franchise model where it was a percentage of revenue. It was just a flat fee every month, basically like a name licensing, right? But they wanted to go the more traditional route with their franchise model and actually start charging a percentage of gross revenue, which I completely I understand why they were doing that, because they wanted to grow the brand.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't grow the brand with a licensing model, right? You need to generate that revenue in order to keep expanding marketing and operations and all of that stuff. But what they did is they imposed this on all current franchisees. So you have all these franchisees that have been World Gym owners for 40 years that are paying a flat fee every month, and now they're going to have to go to 6% of their gross rev. So everybody was like, no, thank you. We had, at the time, 95 domestic locations, meaning U.S. locations. And
Wow.
the last I heard last year, they're down to 3. So when my franchise agreement was up at the end of 2019, December 31st, 2019, I rebranded into Grit Fitness, which is my brand. You can see on my sweatshirt here.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jan 1, 2020, I was Grit Fitness. And then like 2 months later, COVID happened. So we had to shut down. But anyways, Grit, I would say, is kind of similar to a Fusion gym, but on a smaller scale. Kind of that more trendy, people that are a little bit more serious about working out, kind of caters a little bit more to the influencers in a way, because the lighting's good, the equipment's cool, stuff like that. Believe me, I'm in nowhere the scale that Fusion Gyms is or anything like that, but I would like to get there. That would be my goal, is to be able to have a brand like that, because I love his brand. And actually recently a study came out as those traditional branded gyms are kind of starting to trend downward, and those Fusion style gyms are starting to trend upward, because more and more people, the younger people, like your generation and younger, are more serious about working out, and they actually make time to get in the gym and do things.
I think I've noticed it in like the entrepreneurial space, because we're friends with a lot of them. Is like, if you're working out like regularly, it becomes a community in itself. And I noticed that this past year, I've noticed that LA Fitness, it's like, if I go at the wrong time, like I'm not getting an efficient workout in, and like, I've been in LA for a long time. I've been there because it's cheap, but I, as Ryan and I started to talk about like wanting to do that for ourselves at one point, I've thought, yeah, maybe it is worth it to spend $120 a month and go to a place that like I can really get a workout in, and also like build more connections of people that are kind of more like-minded. And it's almost like you pay to play in a way. You're kind of in your own like weird, like little fraternity of like, if someone's working out there and they have great physique and they look good, they're probably doing something in their business, right? Or they probably have something going for them. So I think there's a power in that sort of networking too, that kind of gets overlooked, because you think people that don't work out think the gym community is like just like, like eating all day and like just bulking and not thinking about like business and relationships. And I think they're dead wrong. And it's cool. You don't get that until you get in that space.
I heard a story the other day that was actually really cool. And you probably have a story like this, but there's it was a gentleman named Sahil Bloom. He's like an author now and really a polished entrepreneur, really successful, an investor. And he would get up and go to the gym at like 4:35. And he met this older gentleman that he would work out with every day. They just talk about life, talk about business. He had no idea who he actually was. And he started getting mentored from him. And he just kind of like, they went through, every different thing in that facet of the business where Sahil wanted to go to. Come to find out, it was Tim Cook from Apple. And he had no idea, dude. And they just, because they were working out together 4:30 to 5 every day, they're the first 2 people in the gym. They just started talking business. To Cory's point, great physique. They're just like, you're doing something if you're a high performer and getting up that early before the world wakes up, right? And incredible. Now he wrote the preface to Sahil's book, and like they're tied like neck and neck. And who better to have in your corner, right? From one of the biggest brands in the entire world. Yeah. And so I just think about that all the time, just like an anecdote for people to get your ass in the gym and get up early. We talk about, well, I'm not built for the 5:30. No one is, dude. Like, you just have to force yourself to do the uncomfortable. And so, a lot of people do the 5 o'clock gym. That's when everyone gets out of work. Most people are going to go do it. But that early riser, those are the different breeds. And so I just thought it was a cool anecdote to bring up because I just heard it on a podcast the other day. I'm like, dude, this just goes perfectly to our story and like how to get in the right rooms with the right people. You never know who you're going to meet, but if you put yourself in the opportunities to potentially meet someone like that, those are the rooms they're in. You just have to go find them. And I think it's called, is it Lifetime? The one's like $130 a month, something like that.
Yeah.
That's the next stage for sure.
They're like boutique, or not boutique.
I don't mind spending $1,000 a year for all the amenities they have in there. It's just compared to the LA, but we're both kind of stuck on the $20 a month LA Fitness. They got us grandfathered in. So, and I like it. It's massive. Mine has a pool. They just put like a regen hydrotherapy in there too. And so there's some cool stuff going on. But to your point, I'd much rather go to a gym that's got the black walls, got the high, the nice lighting package, because if you need photos for the Instagram or the podcast or whatever it is, even the black and white on your shirt, dude, like I'd wear that. I love the branding. It's sleek.
I'll send you some. I'll send you some swag.
Oh, we would love that.
That's exactly my style. And so it's cool, man. So I appreciate, I love, we haven't gotten to talk about the gym life and just the doors it can open. But I also want to talk about just being high performers in general. Like, I think all of it goes back to having a clear mind and like getting that, whether it's the grit, whether it's the chip on your shoulder, whatever it is, you have to, in order to play good, you have to feel good, and you gotta like mentally feel good about yourself to go do the things and perform at a high level. And so for us, like truly some days it's not even just go build and bulk and or cut, whatever. It's to clear your head. It's like, I like to go for a nice run. I like to work out after. I like to get the pump in because it fuels me for the rest of the week. And I'm a totally different person if I don't. My wife is like, dude, you need to get your ass in the gym this week. You're working too hard. You're a different person. Like, come talk to me after. So it's just funny.
I know so many people that they will go and purposely go get those high ticket gym memberships, like at Equinox or by me in Chicago here, or there's Midtown Athletic Club or East Bank Club, because of the caliber of people that go to those facilities. I mean, you're talking high net worth accredited investors that go to those facilities. And, to your point, right, like Tim Cook is training at those kind of places, right? So the networking that you can do can help elevate your own personal self, brand, business, all of that stuff, because you're willing to surround yourself with people that don't worry. They're not, petty is not the right word, but they're not like, they don't have a limiting belief behind spending the money to make money, right? I think so many people have that problem where they will, I don't want to spend that money on that coaching program because it's $10,000, but that 10,000 could make you 100,000, right? But you're willing to go and spend, $50,000 on some car that you really don't need, right? That's I mean, that's the mindset that entrepreneurs have. That's my thing, is like, I barely pay myself out of my business. All of my dollars recirculate back into the business to keep growing the business, to take the business to another level. And growing could mean hiring consultants to figure out how do we operate more efficiently, or hiring sales trainers to how can we sell better? How can we, all of these things, how can we become better? That's entrepreneurship, is reinvesting not only into the business, but yourself, so that you could take yourself and the business to the next level.
Bo, you make such a great point. Ryan and I had the pleasure of interviewing on our podcast. Shout out to the Wealth Juice podcast, but we interviewed Robert Croak. And he's big on social. He's like, he's inventor of Silly Bands. Okay. So he made Silly Bands, and now he's just an investor, crypto, real estate, stock market, brilliant guy. And he said, I don't know like who your audience is, Bo, but like, I'm speaking to like the 25-year-olds right now. Like, if he said that if he were starting over, he was 18 to 25, he would do three things. He would move away from his hometown. He would work at a country club during the day, like caddy or something during the day. At night, he would work at a high-end restaurant. And then the third thing is what you mentioned is you spend some money and go to a nice gym. You have three opportunities to meet people who are super high-level people. And the anecdote to the story that's working out for my brother right now, he's 22 years old. He dropped out of college. Shout out to Ethan if you're listening. He works in I would say it's not a high-end restaurant, but a nice restaurant met the owner, created a relationship with her. She is now hiring him on her real estate team, and he's going to become an agent. And so like the thought process of paying to play or going to work in this nice restaurant or the nice country club or the nice gym or work out there, I think it's missed by a lot of people because they're hoarding their cash for this opportunity that's not going to come knocking on their door. And Ryan and I have a coaching program. We teach people how to buy their first and next rental property. People that got in early with us are crushing it. And they're like, this is the easiest money I've ever spent. I can't believe it was this cheap. And we're like, okay, we'll raise our prices. But we're at this point that like, we're like, you know, we understand the value of reinvesting in yourself. Ryan and I have spent over $100,000 on coaching, at least, you know, in the last 2 years. And so it's not all been roses and sunshine, but you find the things you like, you find the things you don't, and you bet on yourself and you dive in. And I think it's been the best investment that we've ever made outside, not even, I'm not talking about the real estate investments or the stock market investments. I'm talking about the reinvestment in yourself. And I think it's amazing.
People are too afraid to do this. And I know this is kind of, we're probably all thinking the same thing, and you already touched on this, Bo, but it's that limiting belief that it's just like, it's a waste of money, right? And like, how can you quantify investing in yourself? That's really hard. It's like, you're going to invest $10,000 back. How long is it going to take you to get that 10,000 back? It might take a couple of years, but you're going to learn skill sets on top of that to get you to that level. And you're that $10,000 is going to turn into $100,000 pretty quickly. So it's just an interesting concept. It took us a while to do this, right? YouTube University teaches you a lot, ChatGPT and all the AI softwares. Those are cheat codes for business. And I say cheat codes, they're just to help make you more efficient, right? But at the end of the day, it's getting around the right people, right? And just like even being in rooms like this and us all riffing. And we just had a hope and dream of a gym one day, right? And we're like, now I know we have a guy in our corner that we can at least go to if we ever want this to come to fruition or pivot in a way, right? But it's just, it's a cool thing. And you wouldn't have known that. We wouldn't have known that had I not seen your shirt and just, hey, dude, we actually are interested in something like this. If you can't point this in the right direction, you'll be like, yo, dude, I got 3 other guys you should talk to first before you even think about going and taking this path. So it's just an interesting thing. I love this conversation of, dude, you gotta, once you invest in your 401k, stock market, brokerage, Roth IRA, maybe you dabble in real estate, at some point you have to invest in yourself. Cory and I have talked about this at length on a number of podcasts, and I'll bring this up too because I would love your perspective. But we've had coaches our whole lives. Like all of us in this room are athletes, right? So Cory played basketball. He ended up coaching basketball. I played football, lacrosse, a couple other things. I've had a coach all the way through high school. You get dumped into college, you take your classes, for those who went to college, right? And then boom, thrown into the real world. And you're like, whoa, I have knowledge on some things, not everything. And you're going through, you get, you start making 50, 70, $100,000 and you're like, okay, like what's next? Like, how do I get to that upper echelon of the world and into the 1% if I want to be? And it's just a totally different thing. And a lot of people, you have to find a way to break free from the rat race. You have to learn how to buy income producing assets. You have to learn all these things that aren't taught in school and no one's there to teach you. So for us, Cory and I were like, at some point, we need to bring someone in to help us. You're not going to invest the right amount of dollars in the right coach the first try. So it's taken us a lot of dollars and trials and tribulations to go through. But my point here is, for you, at what point did you think about bringing in consultants, coaching to kind of help you run your business and get to the next level of your life?
Immediately. I came from the job that I was at prior. There was, I don't know, how do I explain this without, the job I was at prior, I think I learned a ton about business, right? It was a family business. I learned about banking. I learned about insurance. I learned about bonding. I learned about operations, managing hundreds of employees. But there was still some things that I knew could be done better. So when I bought the gyms, I immediately started to reinvest into myself because I knew there were better ways. So I wanted to find out what those ways were. And so the only way you could do that is, hire a mentor, hire a coach. And so the first thing that I did is I knew I needed to work on myself to improve my confidence, because I think when you're first starting off, you're like, at least for me, I didn't have a lot of confidence in thinking, man, am I going to survive this? Am I going to be able to do it? When I had to fire my first employee, I was like sweating and, stuttering and stuff. And so it's being able to approach those hard situations with more confidence so that you are a better leader. So like my first I guess, coaching program that I bought into was Tony Robbins' coaching program, right? Because I wanted to get rid of the limiting beliefs. I wanted to, have that mindset to look, forward, and, figure out life goals, figure out, how to get there, all of that stuff. And then I think the next one is after I did that for a year. When I did that, after I did that, I joined a group. It's called the Rex group, Rex Roundtables. And the Rex Roundtables is made up of other gym owners across the US. So we get together 3 to 4 times a year, and we will either go and visit each other's gyms, find out how they're operating, see who's doing the best practice of ways of doing things, learn their model, and then we'll come back, we'll sit down, we'll give our advice, and then we learn about industry practices. We learned about, better business practices. As an example, like just this last fall, as a part of the Rex Roundtable, I went to Gettysburg and I did the Gettysburg tour where we learned about the Civil War. And you would think, well, what the hell does that got to do with business? It has everything to do with business, because it's all about leadership and what decisions led to the North winning the Civil War versus the South losing, and what the South did right, what the North did wrong, and all of that stuff. So it was kind of a long-winded answer, Ryan, but it was I immediately started to reinvest into myself.
I think, Bo, that takes guts to do that. And most people wait years until it's too late to do it. This quote, you and I it's funny. We're on this podcast because we're in the same mastermind, right? We're in a mastermind about content. And actually the guy who runs it, Rich, shout out to Rich, he put up a tweet the other day that says competition happens in the middle, collaboration happens at the top. And that's exactly what you're saying, because you don't even realize that people are doing this sort of collaboration. You kind of have this, at least we did, lone wolf mentality, like no one's messing with us, like keep holding our secrets tight. Like, and you realize the more you give away the value, the more you give away, the more you talk about your story, the more people lean into that and they see the authenticity, and then you can grow with somebody. And that's like how we even formed our partnerships in our real estate, is like, we have this skill set, you have this skill set, maybe we can go further together. And I just think investing in yourself that early, I was way too scared to do that. Right. It took us 4.5, 5 years to invest in ourselves and our business. And now we're so much further along because we did. So I think it takes guts. Not everyone will do that from the jump.
Yeah. I'm kind of like my mentality is like, I'll jump both feet in. But one of my favorite sayings ever is, when you get to the island, burn the boats, because that's it. It's like you either commit, because if you've got a plan B, you're not going to fully commit. And that's why when you get to the island, you burn the boats, because there are no other options other than to succeed at whatever goal you're trying to achieve. Right.
And you would say, Bo, that's in any scenario you would tell someone to do that. I'm just curious. And I'll give you a little story. Like Ryan and I been building our real estate portfolio for 4 or 5 years. We have some cash flow coming in, probably enough to live off of, but not to live the way we want to, right? Like, enough of a baseline. And we started our coaching program back in August, and I left my job in September. I left my job in September, and I remember thinking, this is the only way that I'm going to be able to go all in and build out the rest of our real estate portfolio and build out our coaching program the way that I want to. Ryan ended up keeping his job. We're 50-50 partners. We make it work. But I realized that I was in this like hamster wheel at work and then hamster wheel after, and I wasn't really getting anywhere. And I figured, like, I didn't even really look at it as burning the boats, but like, that's kind of what I did. And I'm so glad I did. Every day I wake up and I do something that I love. The business is growing. Things are progressing. And I feel like that leap of faith is like, you're never going to be ready, right? So you just kind of have to do it. I'm curious on your take of like, would you agree with that? There's never someone knocking on your door saying like, okay, here, it's time to do it, right? Like,
no, I mean, 100%. I mean, I feel I learned that early on, is you've got to take risks, because the reward comes with risks, right? You can't just dip your toe in, because here's the other thing behind it is one person only has so much bandwidth, right? And so if you've got a W-2 job and then you're trying to get a side hustle going where you're going to try and make, 6 figures or millions of dollars, you can't do both at the same time because your attention is being split too many different ways. And then if you've got a family on top of it, if you've got hobbies on top of that, so every single thing that you do throughout your day, every little nuance that you're doing is taken away from your bandwidth. And so if you're going to commit to going and doing something, you need to jump. You need to go all in my opinion. And believe me, most people, that's why they call it the 1%ers, because only 1% have the guts or the fortitude to be able to withstand that stress, right? It's not for everybody, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a W-2 job and then a side hustle as well. There's not. But if you're trying to get to a certain level where, Cory, like you're saying, being literally financially free, you have to take some massive, massive risks. I mean, look at Apple. We were talking about Apple earlier. Like, Steve Jobs and Wozniak started that thing out of their garage where there was not one personal computer on anyone's desk. That is a massive, massive risk. And then Steve is going out and trying to raise money for Apple and try and grow this business that was non-existent. You're talking about a non-existent business. All of us are in real estate. That's an existing business that everyone has done. And, there's a playbook, if you will. There was no playbook behind Apple, just like there was no playbook behind Microsoft or Amazon or Starbucks, right? Those guys changed the industries. They're industry titans for a reason. And that is massive, massive risk. And it gets massive, massive reward behind that.
I would say, Bo, that you don't even have to, I feel like how stupid I am compared to those people. Like and we've done it, right? Like I'm not even in the same, their IQ is 20 times mine. So I'm thinking like, you don't have to be that type of titan to take a risk and take a chance on yourself and create a business, right? Like there are people, and this is the value of the mentorship and the value of masterminds. There are people that have done what you want to do and are doing it at an extremely high level. And if you can find those people and get around them, you don't have to be a Steve Jobs. You don't have to be a Tim Cook. What you can do is create your own niche, spin it your way, follow the people in the footsteps, like the real estate. Real estate has been around for thousands and thousands of years. We're not industry titans, but we've created our own little niche in this world. And I think that going after it doesn't have to mean you doing it all alone. I think, but the betting on yourself to me is like the biggest thing.
100%. Well, I mean, it's like they say, it's like, and this took me a long, long time to kind of realize this, is because early on my mentality was, I want to do it all. I want to do it all by myself. I can do it all. I can own all this real estate on my own. I can, raise the capital and manage it. You can't. Like, you need a team, and you need to surround yourself with the right people. And it's better to own something of a little bit than nothing or something of nothing, right? So there's a lot of truth behind that, Cory, is like, there is so much, there's an abundance of opportunity out there. There really is. And you just have to focus enough and be willing to put in the work to chase that opportunity and that dream.
That kind of plays a little bit into our story. You're mentioning owning, a piece of something big rather than own 100% of nothing, right? I think that's kind of what you were trying to say. Like, so Ryan and I started to build out our portfolio, and what we realized is that there's people that do this full time, and we're the people that are working on 9-to-5s. And what we did, instead of saying, oh, we can't beat them, it's like, let's join them. So the 18 unit, the 43 unit, the 7 unit, the 10 unit, Ryan and I are general partners in that project, and we own call it 30, 40%, whatever it is of that project. We own a percentage of this project by bringing our skill sets to the table. So not looking at it like, well, how can I compete with this guy who has this entire marketing structure, and they bring on, underwriters, and they have all this, I can't buy the same projects as them. Well, maybe those people are lacking funds, or maybe they're lacking the network to go. Maybe they know how to find the deals, but they don't have the people that are willing to fund them. And so that's how I think people can try to fit in, figure out where you can fit in. And now we own 30% of this deal and 40% of this deal and 40% of that deal. And it's able to grow our net worth, our network, our skill set. And then now we're talking about a $30 million fund in Arizona that we're working on, that I just, we had no business being in this room with some of these people. So I totally agree with you. Owning a percentage of something is better than trying to go at it all yourself all the time. That's kind of my thought. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like they say, you got to build your bench, right? And your bench is not only your external team, but your internal team too. And that's something too that's big, big, big in business. And I talk about this on my podcast all the time, is like, you are nothing without your team. And that's a whole nother thing behind leadership. Is a good leader is growing your team and mentoring even your own team. Like while you're going out and getting mentored, you have to mentor the people that are underneath you as well. That is also huge in business as well.
I think that's probably something that we struggle with, actually. Like our business, our coaching business is me and Ryan as owners, and we have one employee. And I think that's probably the next phase for us, is learning, first of all, growing it to the point where we need to hire more employees, right? But then also, like, it's a high margin business, so we won't need 30, 40 employees to run like a really profitable business, but we'll probably be 5 to 10. And like, that's, I think, is a skill set that we haven't mastered yet. And I'm excited to learn it. I'm excited to learn retention and incentivizing and growing people within the company. And it's a cool thing. And I'm curious about your experience with that leadership and like the companies that you've built. I mean, how many employees do you have? I'm sure it depends on the business, right? But how many employees?
Yeah, it depends on the business. Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's ever growing, ever evolving. You're always, because times change, right? Because I say this all the time, when as of recently, at least, pre-COVID, the persona and quality of person I would hire is way different than it has been post-COVID. Post-COVID, especially at the gyms, right? At the gyms, it's mostly like high school, young college people that are working the front desk or working in our daycare or doing personal training. And, the caliber of people that we're hiring now compared to what it was pre-COVID is vastly, vastly different, because most of those kids grew up where they were locked indoors for 2 years. They are constantly in their phones. They're constantly scrolling, worried about what the next big thing is on social media. They don't engage as much with the public. I think my staff does a good job at that, because one of my big things is like, when you're at the front desk, you need to say hello and goodbye to everybody and try and know their names as well. Because, Ryan, you were mentioning earlier, it's about building a community. And the easiest way to do that is just knowing a person's name and saying hello and goodbye. So those kind of things. But it's a lot harder to hire. Plus, I feel like high school kids nowadays feel like they should be paid, $50,000 a year. It used to be college kids that wanted to come out and make $100,000. Now it's like the high school kids want to make it too, because they're seeing all these influencers making, thousands of dollars, but I don't think they realize it's a very, 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 very small percentage that's actually achieving that.
I didn't realize how much these couple years would have affected people that way. And I'm kind of glad that we were in the business world. And part of me sympathizes a little bit with people who are in that high school in those years where you were like trying to learn how to communicate with people during COVID, right? I mean, I think it's part of it's not even really their fault, but it does set people back. And social media has these expectations where it's like, you look at 16-year-olds driving around, likely a rented Lamborghini, but it's a Lamborghini. And they're just like, you're like, how, if they can do this, like why can't I do it? And I think it does set false expectations of the people that are grinding and building the business and how long it actually takes to achieve something like that. I think that crypto and all of that has created like a false summit on delayed gratification. Like, you don't realize, like, if you save up your money and you invest in the right spots and you invest in yourself, all the things we're talking about, if you do those things, eventually good things are going to happen, not just hitting Dogecoin to the moon. Right. And I think that's hard for kids to realize. Like, it really is. It's not an easy thing. And I don't, but I think that's, again, back to our conversation about getting in the right rooms of people who have built the businesses, who have seen the success, who are taking care of themselves. Like, those are the people you really learn from, not necessarily just one video online that's telling you to buy a certain coin. Like, you're not going to it's a fast way to have shiny object syndrome to death, and you'll be on to the next thing and on to the next thing. And I've been a victim of it, right? Like this is the next thing that's going to make me a bunch of money. It's like, no, I do the one thing for 10 years. That's what I do. I do the one thing for 10 years. And I think that's what we've learned. That's why when Rye brings up, like, I would love to own a gym, I'm like, dude, I would love to. Let's do this for 10 years first. And then that'll be the next thing, like, because Bo is over there saying, yeah, I don't know if you guys want to jump into that space. It's pretty tough.
Well, it's funny because I always wanted to get into real estate since I was a teenager, when I was a little kid, because I actually talked about this on my first podcast, where my uncle owned a bunch of apartment complexes. And when I didn't really understand how he made money. And so my dad explained it to me. He sat me down and took a pen and paper and wrote out, like talked about how NOI works and cap rates and depreciation and all of that stuff. And I'm like, wait. So you're saying that with the depreciation, I can make all this money and not pay taxes or reduce taxes? I'm like, that's for me. So I always wanted to get into real estate, and buying the gyms was kind of a double-edged thing, because I wanted to take the profits from the gyms and start buying commercial property, right? But little did I know the amount of capital that's required to maintain a gym is tremendous. It's tremendous. And so I never got there. And then that kind of leads back to what we were talking about earlier, is when COVID hit and we got shut down, that's when I was like, okay, I need to pivot. I can't focus on trying to do this all myself. I need to learn how to do syndication and go out and try and raise capital to go get real estate myself, because otherwise I'll be here till I'm 70 trying to buy my first multi-unit property. Right. So yeah, I mean, and I've said this too on my podcast, like if I would have reversed that, right, Ryan, I think I would have the same mindset as you, as like, if I would have bought real estate first and done that for 10 years, I would have no doubt probably wanted to open a gym. But the difference is this, because real estate already has that playbook. If I would have bought the real estate in my 20s and hustled and bought and buckled down in my 20s for 10 years and done that, there would be no question in my mind I'd be a multi-millionaire from the real estate. And I could have done whatever the hell I wanted after that, right? Because you only need so much to live. At that point, when you make so much, it's just about reinvesting into other things.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. It's but it's a long grind, right? It takes a village.
Yeah. And I don't think there's any shame or harm in pivoting, right? Like that's not kind of what I'm saying, but I think it's more so like you won't know if you're going to be successful if you do it for a year or 18 months or 2 years. You won't get to that phase where you can even feel out if it's worth doing until you put your head down for a lot longer than other people are willing to do it for. That's the thing that gets me, is like, and I've said I've been a victim of this. I tried something for 6 months, didn't like it. Well, I probably could have been good at it. I just didn't give it enough time. Yeah. And maybe I didn't like it enough. So maybe it was a good decision to pivot. But the things that you stick with for long enough, people are like, do something you're passionate about. Well, you know what? We get passionate out of becoming really good at something. And if you're not good at anything when you first start. So if you become really good at something and then you build the passion around that, then you're confident. And then when you have confidence, you can take it to the next level. And then you get 5 years in, 10 years in, then you're all of a sudden people are asking you to speak on stage about shit. And you're like, that's pretty cool. I've done it for long enough to be able to afford the ability to have people think I'm an authoritative figure. And then, so that's why I think social media and putting your message out there and talking about things for a long period of time, it's like, dude, for example, us, like the people are like, we have 2,000 posts on social. Like, I'm not saying that we're the best real estate investors ever. There's so many people that are so much better than us, but we're talking about it for a long time and we fit a good niche. If you're trying to get your first, second, third, like we know how to do it, So,
it's all about the reps.
It's all about the reps. It's all about the reps.
Actually, I saw a video recently with Tony Robbins. He was talking about Steph Curry, and he was saying how Steph Curry does something like something crazy, like he will do 1,500 practice shots a day. And so if you do that for 10 years, it equates to over 1 million shots. And so he's done so many reps. That's why he's an outstanding shooter, is because he's he's built that pattern so efficiently, because who else is shooting that many times in a day? I mean, at the pro status, probably close, but Steph Curry is like dedicated to that.
No, I think so. I'm a basketball guy, so I love to talk about this stuff. I think that I don't know if you ever read the book Outliers, but he's like, there are people that are in the NBA that are putting in the work. No, absolutely. There are people that are putting up, hundreds of shots, but he is one of these outliers that is there. It's not a mistake how good he is. It's something that he has crafted in where I don't know this because I'm not Steph Curry, but I just realized when you see people doing things that no one's ever done before, he is the Steve Jobs, right? Him, he is the Bill Gates. He's the people that are the outliers of the sport that's shooting it from 45 feet with ease, with his eyes closed. And I think that it comes from kind of maybe an unhealthy obsession, but you call it what you want. Like if you put Tiger Woods, I don't know if you ever seen the documentary on him, what his dad would put him through to become the athlete that he is. And Rye loves the Tom Brady, the chip on your shoulder, Tom Brady analogy. But Steph is he's one of those things that it's so unnatural to see. And people are what happens is you watch kids go out there and they start jacking up threes. And it's no, the start of where Steph Curry came from is the millions and millions of shots he's taken from around the basket and stepping back and learning the technique. And it's something truly admirable that you can take to business, life, and in anything. And he's just such an inspiration. If you ever watched USA basketball this summer, it was the coolest thing ever to watch him just win, single-handedly take over and win the gold medal for US. So I admire someone like him.
I do too. I love that hard work. And I've said this before too on my podcast, there is in today's day and age, everyone has all of these resources right at their fingertips, right? Like Cory, you mentioned YouTube University and Udemy and all of that stuff. I mean, there is no reason why you can't learn a skill or a trade, sitting at home rather than watching Netflix. You could build your skills, your craft, and become better at something. And then when you're doing it,
am I still in here?
You sit down and you got the internet that you can learn.
I don't want to
better
share
ways of doing it,
name
right?
of the company.
So there's just so much opportunity to be able to grow and get better out there.
Couldn't have said it any better.
Okay, yeah.
Ryan, what's your W-2 job?
I work in how do I say this? I work in service and retention, and with a background in sales. Yeah. So that kind of, I was a sales manager at one point. Now I just work with high net worth individuals buying it.
We haven't the industry you work in, right?
Yeah, what industry?
So my job really is to maintain relationships, build relationships, and then retain business on a yearly basis. So basically the front-facing person when you come in and buy a product, essentially, I'm there to make sure you're having a good time throughout the year, make sure if anything is going haywire that I fix it. But it's relationship 101. And then it's just retaining a book of business, building relationships, which has helped propel our, Cory and I's real estate career in a way, because I've learned how to run a business on a certain side, but really how to maintain, run, and create relationships. And we talked about this in the beginning. I believe it was this episode. It's real estate is a relationship game and business in general, right? It's who you know and how you can help that person. And then how that person can help you get to the next stage, who you can get introduced to, and just a revolving door like that, right? It's very reciprocal in a lot of ways. And so it's helped Cory and I start and realize I talk about this on a bunch of podcasts, but for me, I never could be, and I've learned this about myself over time, I could never be the person that is just handed a salary and says, here you go. No matter if you're doing amazing today, if you're doing poorly today, you're getting paid the same amount. I love the chase and the hustle. So that's where the sales aspect comes in with bonuses and commission and all that. And so I think that's really, I'm a hunter in a way like that, right, too. And I think that's kind of helped Cory and I build our business. And it's maybe not the chip on your shoulder, but that little fire in you to go chase it and get after it every day. We're always, we both have a sales background. And so we know what it's like to get told no a million times and finally get to the yes at the end of the day. And so I think if you're on the revenue generating side of a business, you're always going to have a job, right? And then if you can become an amazing relationship builder and you can provide value first, the value is just going to come back and you can build a life outside of the business. And you'll always have, what I really like is always having a person for anything, right? I need a haircut. I need to get a new car. I need a new gym. I need whatever you need, on the service-based side of things. I have a person now, right? And that's only from providing a lot of value to a lot of people. But I'm just, as you said in the beginning of the episode, Bo, like, you're a very curious person. We might have talked about that offline, but so are we. And I think that for Cory and I to get on our podcast and just ask all these questions on a daily basis, for the last 10 years, I've been asking the same questions to my clients. I'm like, how did you get to the level of success you are? And like, I always want to know what a person does for work. I want to know their background, like what they have had to stand up against their life. Did they come from nothing? Did they, have some help along the way? Because it helps just paint a picture. I know everyone's different. They have a different scenario, but I'm just so genuinely curious. And I've talked about this before, but I think it's so cool. And I always wanted to know, have a little speech bubble above someone's head and just know their net worth and be like, then I can go right to that person. I'm like, dude, what did you do? Like, just tell me. And if I can get 2-3 anecdotes out of it, I can weave that into my life and start playing that in. And just so, based on all this conversation, I know it kind of plays off the job, but like it's led us to this point. And now I go into any conversation with the podcast, and it's just, I've learned it's not one thing to just get the information. Once you get it, run with it and do something about it, right? Take that action. And, Cory mentioned we had Robert Croak on our podcast a couple of years back. He has a podcast himself now called the Rich Habits Podcast. It's all about financial independence, how to invest in the stock market, crypto, all the things. But I've been listening to that on a daily basis now because he speaks the language that I need. And like, Cory and I have real estate down pat, and my financial house is great. Like, I wouldn't have been able to get into real estate without having that. But now I know every time I have money coming into my, let's call it ecosphere, I know exactly where it's going to be deployed and get automatically invested into certain things now. And that podcast and that person has helped me do that. And so I wouldn't have had the confidence to ask him how to do this, if he couldn't answer it, ask him for a referral, all these different things. It's come down to relationships. And I think, starting out, like my first job ever out of college was in sales, and it was selling, essentially like it was not the easiest thing to sell at the time. That's what I'll say. And so I learned how to overcome objections, how to navigate conversations, how to build emotional intelligence and strengthen that a little bit. So I say all that to say, Cory and I are very much marketing and sales guys, and we've learned to become integrators over time because that's a necessity of business, right? You can be the front facing guys, but you're gonna have to buckle down and really build out a business. And finding those people to teach us and coach us on that, back to the coaching thing, that was where we were really lacking. And so people. And then I think at the end of the day, people, process, and culture is how you kind of like help run your business. And man, it's an ever long journey that we're just kind of, trying to polish and sharpen the axe every day. But I think we're getting there.
Yeah. So Cory, since you quit your W-2 in September, and Ryan, you're still working your W-2, how do you guys, since you're partners, how do you guys split your business operations? Like, Ryan, are you doing all the front facing networking, building, and capital raising, and Cory, you're doing the ops, or how does that work?
It's actually the opposite. So sort of the opposite. So the real estate business, Ryan and I are basically 50-50. We do the same functions where we're both capital raising. We're both going out there and doing the marketing and the investor relations and the underwriting of these deals that we're vetting with our partners. So that's the same. For our coaching business, we have completely defined and split roles. I am the marketing, running our ads, doing sales calls, front facing, bringing people into our community. And then Rye is the back end, where he's doing like, the back end marketing, email, building out our course, branding, all of those things on the back end. And then we both do the coaching calls together, the actual, like, the infrastructure of what we're providing to our clients. So he's actually taken on the role of integrator because it's easier for him to integrate at 7, 8, 9, 10 p.m. at night, where I'm doing the calls and getting on calls with people and doing the marketing and ads and like setting and appointment, all of those things during the day when people are mostly up and talking and everything. So we've divided it pretty well. And I found that
I would say just to piggyback off this,
we didn't know that because we're both actually like
the
the sales guys, but we didn't know. I didn't realize that Rye had this like
in tandem with the podcast,
mentality,
we built a social media page, and we were always
inside
going
him
to like,
somewhere. Maybe he
the
just
question kept
forced
coming
it
up,
because
well,
I
when
wasn't
are we gonna
doing
post?
any of
What are
it.
we gonna post
So that's
about?
kind of
And,
how
like,
we
I was like, Cory,
split
I'm
up and
not
divided
doing the podcast and doing this social media thing without giving it 100%. And like, I can't personally function if there's if it's organized chaos. Like if there's things all out of place, I'm very type A, maybe a little OCD in me. And shout out to my mom, because she definitely instilled that in me. And so just throwing that out there, she'd get a kick at that. But for me, if things are out of whack, I just can't function appropriately. So I need to take everything that's in left, right field and bring them back to center field and drill right down the pipe. So I think that's helped us along the way. And when we go to like make decisions and things, it seems like, Cory will have an idea, and like, it's kind of Ryan to figure out how we're going to actually implement this into the business. And then we go through and there's other ways, but then he'll take it and he can run that operation on a daily basis. Right. I'm just, I guess, kind of I don't really know how to put it into words, but kind of like tying everything together and putting it in a streamlined, systematized process. Yeah. I forget the book. I think it's Traction by Gino Wickman. There's the visionary, right? Like the idea guy. And then there's the integrator. You have to play both roles as you start a business, but then, as you kind of find your steam and you roll ahead, you can separate the roles a bit. And especially out of necessity right now, like I can't be the front facing guy, right? I still have my W-2 job, and Cory is just getting after it every day. But the early grinder, 5 to 9, and then the 6 to 12 guy, right? Like I can do the behind the scenes stuff. I could prep us for the week. I could say, hey dude, here's how we're going to run X, Y, and Z. Here's what I think on this. And so it's worked out for us. We've been lucky, but the even luckier part is we both have very, the reason our partnership works is we have very similar goals and aspirations in life and values and things like that. So it's easy to chase the same thing, and you're like, dude, we're not wavering. We've gotten hit with shiny object syndrome. Shiny object syndrome. Wow. Well, tongue twister there. Over time, I think everybody has, right? But reeling it back in, saying, hey, dude, here's our business, real estate all the way, podcast all the way, providing value, serving others, teaching people how to buy properties. Like that's what we enjoy doing, right? And just putting our message out there. So hopefully that provided a little bit more context. But yeah, Cory's a visionary. I'm the integrator, and that's the yin to my yang.
Right on. That's awesome. Are you guys mostly buying in the Philly market, or will you go to other markets to buy?
Actually, so we started in the Philadelphia, New Jersey market. That was where we just investing in our backyard, but we haven't bought in there for several years. We have a property in Tampa, Florida. Mainly we're focused in the Northeast, actually in New Hampshire and Vermont. That's where we're buying like our larger multifamily projects. That's where our partner is. He's boots on the ground up there. Which is a little bit of a rare market for like when people hear, most people are in the Sun Belt or they're buying in Georgia or South Carolina or Texas. But I love the Florida market. That's a market that we look in. I have a short-term rental down there, but mostly we're looking our 18 unit, our 10 unit.
Bo, to your point, you mentioned this earlier in the podcast. You're only as good as your team, right?
And so the low vacancy rates up there.
Team is in that
less
market,
competition,
and
but also
have someone that was boots on the ground, grew up there, has the local family raised connections,
is up there
rather than forcing it, right? And so it's worked out so great for us so far, and I think we've learned that it's tough to vet operators these days. Everyone seems they have a smile on their face. They're selling you the dream. And when you find the right people, you stick with them. Right. And they'll show you their true colors, especially when shit hits the fan and things aren't going great. That's when you know who's in your corner. And so, yeah, I want to touch on that. It's once again, it goes back to people. It's your team. It's who you can rely on and the people that are going to carry you through to the next level.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I love what you guys are doing. Where can everybody reach out to you?
First of all, appreciate it, man. That means a lot. We are the best place to get in touch with us is Instagram. We are at Wealth Juice Official on Instagram. We answer every single DM. We're happy to help. We teach people how to buy their first and next rental property. So if you're looking to get in a real estate game, if you're looking to buy your 50th, go to somewhere else. We're not the guys that can help you with that. We're the guys that can get you started because we understand the power of one and how much it helped us. So Wealth Juice Official on Instagram, that's the best place to get in touch with us. You can check out the Wealth Juice podcast, and then also YouTube, where we post a lot of content there. We're trying to diversify from Instagram because that's our main hub. But yeah, that would be the best way.
Awesome,
best place to find us.
I appreciate you guys coming on. Love what you guys are doing. You're killing it out there. Let's keep in contact, and I'll be sure to put everybody your contact info in the show notes.
You're the man, Beau. Appreciate your time, brother.
Thanks, guys.